All right, Shabbat Shalom. All right, so we're going to start in Matthew chapter 13. We're going to start in verse 1. It says, on the same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat by the sea. And great multitudes were gathered to him, so that he got into a boat and sat. And the whole multitude stood on the shore. Then he spoke many things to them in parables, saying, behold, a sower went out to sow. And as he sowed, some seed fell on the wayside. So fell by the wayside, and the birds came and devoured them. Some fell on stony places, where they did not have much earth, and they immediately sprang up, because they had no depth of earth. But when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns sprang up and choked them. But others fell on good ground, and yielded a crop, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. The purpose of the parables. Verse 10, it says, and the disciples came and asked him, and said to him, why do you speak to them in parables? He answered and said to them, because it has been given to you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not been given. For whoever has, to him will be given, and he will have abundance. But whoever does not have, even what he has will be taken away from him. Therefore I speak to them in parables, because seeing they do not see, and hearing they do not hear, nor do they understand. And in them the prophecy of Isaiah is fulfilled, which says, hearing you will hear, and shall not understand. And seeing you will see, and not perceive. For the hearts of this people have grown dull. Their ears have heard, are hard of hearing, and their eyes have been closed. Lest they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, lest they should understand with their hearts, and turn, so that I should heal them. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. For surely I say to you that many prophets and righteous men desired to see what you see, and did not see it, and to hear what you hear, and did not hear it. The parable of the sower explained. Therefore hear the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom, and does not understand it, then the wicked one comes and snatches away what is sown in his heart. Let me say that again, because I really want to make sure we understand this. 18, therefore, hear the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom, okay, and does not understand it, then the wicked one comes and snatches away what was sown in his heart. So we could look at this and we can say, when people hear about the things of the kingdom of heaven, there's some things that people just not going to understand. All right. But then the enemy comes in and takes away what they don't understand. So you have to start somewhere. You know, you have to have the faith. You have to hear the word. You have to understand it. That means when we speak to people, we need to make sure we're very punctual, very simple and plain, and we don't mince words. I know there's a story about Nicodemus coming to Yeshua by night, and he didn't even understand just plain talking to him. So the thing is, I understand it's a hard thing, and sometimes we're just not going to understand certain things. But what we can grasp, we can start there. Okay. This is he who receives seed by the wayside. But he who received the seed on stony places is he who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy. Yet he has no root in himself, but endures only for a while. For when tribulation or persecution arises because of the word, immediately he stumbles. All right? The first person is somebody who they didn't even understand it. The second person understood it, but then outside pressures push them back in. Push them back out into the world, okay? Taking away the faith that they had. You see a lot of people going through this that are Hebrew Israelites. They're leaving the Hebrew Israelite faith. People are leaving the Torah keepers and, all those different groups. People are leaving them, going back into the church. And they're doing that simply because of the persecution, the words, the hatred that they feel. And then there's this weird thing that every now and again, we're going to question ourselves, and we're going to question our faith, and we're going to just naturally ask ourselves, is this thing real? What we're believing, is it real? But you have people that put the pressure on others, and they change eventually, and they go back out into the church, and now they've been lost all over again. Okay? You guys got to understand, the church is the church of Satan. It's using the Bible, and there are some well-meaning people out there, but at the same time, it is the Antichrist movement. Yah uses it because it is using his word, and he understands that certain people are really looking for him. So he uses it to plant the seeds of faith. All right? But it's not the real true, because they don't walk it out. They don't do it the way they're supposed to. Okay? So the pressure to stay within the boundary of the church. Okay? The church will not just allow you to freely believe whatever you want to believe. It wants to keep you bound within its confines. Okay? Let's go 22. Now he who receives seed among the thorns is he who hears the word, and the cares of this world and deceitfulness of riches chokes the word, and he becomes unfruitful. So it's a person who went all the way through, but they just did not, they held on to it for themselves. They never shared with anybody else. Okay? The cares for this world, they're things that they didn't want to ruffle any feathers. So they just continued quietly in their faith, kept it to themselves. Yah says that's people who are thorns. The seed has been sown in thorny grounds, meaning their heart is full of thorns. Okay? But he who receives seed on the good ground is he who hears the word and understands it, who indeed bears fruit and produces some 100-fold, some 60, and some 30. Now I want to make sure we understand this real quick. When you look at a field of crops, almost all the crops are in good soil. Okay? So if we look at that and we just put that to people, all right? Most of people, the majority of people are in good ground. It's going to make something happen. You're going to produce fruit. Most people, okay, when you look at a field, you have just a little small area for a walkway, for a path. All right? You have a small area for the thorns and all of that on the very edges, okay? And you have the very small area that, there's nothing. You got the stony places, okay, which is the pathway. You have the thorns, and then you have the first one that they didn't even understand it. Okay? But the majority of a crop field is good ground. So the majority of people who hear the word, their hearts are already good ground. Okay? It's just some people who are on the edges, who are teeter-tottering between their faith and the world. That's where it gets the gray area. Okay? But we need to understand this simply because we need to understand who we are and how to fix what we are. And if personally we feel like the pressures of life, the pressures of other people, not understanding, those are things that you can simply pray about. Father, I ask you to open up my mind in wisdom and understanding. It's just that easy. Father, I ask you in the name of Yeshua to give me wisdom, give me understanding to understand the words that I'm reading, that I'm hearing, so that my faith may grow. Okay? Stony place. Father, I ask that you would put the word, remove the stones out of my heart. My heart is stony. Remove the heart of stone and replace it with a heart of flesh. Give me good ground. Make my heart good ground. Okay? Father, take these thorns away from me so that I don't care about anything else. And I only care about your word. And only care about what you're saying, what you have for me. It's that easy. Okay? All we got to do is pray about it. Let's move on. Verse 24. It says, another parable he put forth to them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed seed in his field. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat, and he went his way. But when the grain had sprouted and produced a crop, then the tares also appeared. So the servants of the owner came and said to him, Sir, did you not sow good seed in your field? How does it have tares? He said to them, an enemy has done this. The servant said to him, do you want us to then go and gather them up? But he said, no, lest while you gather up the tares, you also uproot the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. And at the time of harvest, I will say to the reapers, first gather together the tares and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. You guys, these are people. And I know we already know a lot of this. But we need to make sure, because we could easily be tares among the wheat. And these things are simple. A simple prayer. A simple prayer can fix a lot of this stuff. Because all we have to do is say, yeah, I don't want to be a tare. I choose to be good wheat. I choose for the seed to be good. I choose to not allow the enemy to come into my mind as I sleep, as I'm entertained, when I'm not in my word, when I'm not focused on the things of Yah. I refuse to allow the enemy to come into my mind and sow seeds of doubt and unbelief and cares for this world and cares for everything else, so that I become something that is unprofitable. Simple prayer. Doesn't take much. All right. I don't know if you can see me better. I don't know if that even works. All right, let's go to 31. Another parable he put forth to them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a man took and sowed in his field, which indeed is the least of all the seeds, but when it is grown, is greater than the herbs, and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the air come and nest in its branches. All right? That's faith. When it talks about you got to have the faith of a mustard seed, it starts out small. The word of Yah produces faith in our lives, but that faith starts out incredibly tiny. But everybody is given a measure of faith automatically. It's what you do with it to feed it, or to feed everything else that kills the seed. Okay? Kills the seedling. We need to make sure that we do not allow this world to put doubt and unbelief in our hearts and our minds, and that we continue to push forward. Because a lot of times, we have our children, we have other people, and so much stuff, they can hang around a godly person and they desire to be godly. But then it's funny, because once they leave that person, they hang around other people, and now they kind of want to do that too. It's almost like people don't know what they want to do, what they want to be. They're wishy-washy. Teenagers are like this. We have teenagers, and teenagers are a lot like this. You give them the word all day, and then they go and watch, I don't know, something else on YouTube or something, a movie, video game, do anything else. And all of a sudden, now they're all about that thing. That's all they talk about. Before they were talking all about the things of Yah. Okay? So that's how easily our minds get wishy-washy. Even as adults, our minds are wishy-washy with the things of, how we look, how we appear to other people. I work with someone who is a believer, and I don't want to seem like I'm like him, so I'm gonna go hang out with these other people. These things, it's very easy for our minds to get into this wishy-washy area, but we need to make sure we stay focused on the things of Yahweh. The parable of the leaven. Another parable he spoke to them. The kingdom of heaven is like leaven, which a woman took and hid in 3 measures of meal till it was all leavened. Faith is something, when we hear it, We hide it within our heart, and it eventually encompasses our whole being. And he's saying the kingdom of heaven is like this. The kingdom of heaven is like this. The kingdom of heaven is like this. Why? And he's doing it to get people to understand that's something I want. That's something I want to grab. That's something I want to hold on to. Okay? So that they do hold on to those things. When you hear something you like, you agree with it, and then you hold on to that. And that's what he's trying to get people to do, to hear something in what he's saying. So he's saying it in as many different ways as he can, so that people grab something out of it and hold on to it and say, yes, this is what I want. This is what I want. And then they continue to walk in that direction. 34. All these things Jesus spoke to the multitudes in parables, and without a parable he did not speak to them, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophet, saying, I will open my mouth in parables. I will utter things kept secret from the foundation of the world. All right? So he always spoke to people this way. Another good idea and good thought is we need to understand the word. Because he's saying right here, he did this because in his mind, he knows he has to fulfill different parts of the Old Testament that was spoken about him. So he's doing these things because he knows the word. We need to also know the word and know our part in it. Know where we are in the word right now and walk in it. It does us no good to always speak about one aspect of this word when there are parts for way back when, and they say, oh, we're not in that time no more. Oh, we're not in this time. We're not in this time. Well, we got to find where we are and find how the rest of it throws hints into where we are to either do or not do certain things. Okay. Verse 36, it says, then Jesus sent the multitudes away and went into the house, and his disciples came to him saying, explain to us the parable of the tares of the field. He answered and said to them, he who sows good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world. The good seed are the sons of the kingdom, but the tares are the sons of the wicked one. The enemy who sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the reapers are the angels. Therefore, as the tares are gathered and burned into the fire, so it will be at the end of this age, when the Son of Man will send out his angels, and they will gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, and those who practice lawlessness, and will cast them into the furnace of fire. Therefore there will be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. I wanna mention something, because a couple things in this were highlighted to me as I was reading, but I was just trying to get through it and not keep stopping. It says the Son of Man will send out his angels, and they will gather out of his kingdom all things that offend. So you have to be in his kingdom, and then he's gonna go through his kingdom, and everything that offends, he's gonna kick it back out. I want y'all to understand this. We need to learn how to live in Yahweh's kingdom, because we can always be kicked back out. We have not made it into heaven yet. We're in his kingdom, but we're not in heaven. So we can always be kicked back out. All right? We don't want to be tares. Like I said, if you realize that you are a tare, that the enemy has placed you in a place, you still have a choice. You always have a choice. And it's just a prayer away. I don't want to be a tare. I don't want to be sent from the evil one, from the devil. I don't want to be sent to do anything bad. I choose you. I choose to walk this path of righteousness. I choose to be righteous, your type of righteousness, not my own, not the church's, not anyone else's, but your type of righteousness, Yahweh. And we have to make sure that this is our choice. This is what we want to do. All right? And we don't want to be, 42, and we'll cast them into the furnace fire. There will be Matthew 41. The Son of Man will send out his angels, and they will gather out of his kingdom all the things that offend, and those who practice lawlessness. So we want to make sure we are not practicing lawlessness. Lawlessness is living without the law. It's living in a way that we do not obey Yahweh's commandments. We do not live up to the expectations of his kingdom. Remember, the church will continue to tell you it is impossible to walk out the law. It is impossible to be sinless. It is impossible. It is impossible. It is impossible. The church will forever say these things because they do not want you to attain this. They want you to stay in lawlessness like they are. Oh, just use grace, use grace, use grace. We live by grace and not by works. Oh, you're doing works if you're practicing the law. Oh, your works is not going to get you into heaven. You know, you're doing work salvation. You got to keep the whole law. You got to do this. You got to do that. Hogwash. Hogwash. Don't listen to them folks. They're crazy. They're misquoting Paul is what they're doing. Okay? And Paul did not die for our sins. Paul is not the end-all, be-all. He's not the Alpha and the Omega. Paul was a servant. Every servant is just a servant. He's an apostle. He was great at what he did. But at the same time, he did not always speak in ways that everyone understood. It is like listening to a parable. You don't understand it all, okay? Not at the beginning. It takes time, it takes prayer, it takes understanding, it takes wisdom, it takes the Holy Spirit to decipher Paul, rightly decipher Paul. Most people will never understand everything Paul says. So we need to make sure that we do not practice lawlessness. We need to make sure that we stay righteous in Yahweh's version of righteousness. You know, Satan has his version of righteousness. I want y'all to understand that. But Yahweh also has his definition of what righteousness is. We need to always make sure we're listening to Yahweh's definition of everything. That we're not listening to the church. We're not listening to these fly-by-night pastors. We're not listening to the enemy. Okay? Let's move on. Verse 44. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field, which a man found and hid. And for joy over it, he goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. All right? The kingdom of heaven is something that you are going to have to give up everything for. When you hear about people really walking in the Spirit, it's because they gave up a lot. Their shift, their mind, what they desired in life changed, and it lined up with the word, even if it meant not attaining some of the things they attained that they could have attained in the world. All right? When we're young, we always think we're going to go out into the world, we're going to do these amazing things, and we're going to make a lot of money, and we're going to live this nice lifestyle. But then something happens and we get this thing going in our faith and our walk, okay? And our priorities change, and it changes for the better. And it says, I no longer care about making $1 million. I no longer care about having this big fancy house and all these cars and all this stuff. Now my focus is on the kingdom of heaven. And that's how it's supposed to be. Even if it means we don't attain absolutely everything we set out to attain at first. We make sure that our intentions and us following Yah is right, first and foremost. Let's see, parable, okay, 45. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant seeking beautiful pearls, who, when he has found one pearl of great price, went and sold all that he had and bought it. So there's everybody out here looking for the kingdom of Yah. It's a lot of people out here. You know, you got Muslims, they think they're going to heaven. You got Buddhists think they're going to heaven. You got all these people, even Satanists think there's no hell, so the only option is to go to heaven as well. Everybody wants to go to heaven. But once you find how to get there. You have to be able to get rid of everything else. Okay. Once you enter into this true knowledge, one, of who we are, two, of how to please Yahweh, you have to let go of everything else. You have to let go of the church. You have to let go of everything you learned in the church. You have to let go of everything that the voodoo people, the New Age people, the astrophysicist type people, all these New Age things, all these, what do you call it? Where you, I don't know, you look at the spirit world, I forget what they call that. But anyway, you have to forget all about those things. And you have to focus 100% on the kingdom of Yah. Okay? 47. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a dragnet that was cast into the sea and gathered some of every kind, which when it was full, they drew to shore, and they sat down and gathered the good into vessels, but threw the bad away. So it will be at the end of the age. The angels will come forth, separate the wicked from among the just, and cast them into the furnace of fire. There will be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Yeshua said to them, have you understood all these things? And they said to him, yes, Lord. Then he said to them, therefore, every scribe instructed concerning the kingdom of heaven is like a householder who brings out of his treasure things new and old. So we need to bring out of our treasure, out of our hearts, out of our minds, things new and old. The New Testament and the Old Testament. Okay? To understand that they go together, that they're talking about the same thing, that we need to understand what they're talking about. 53. Now it came to pass, when Jesus had finished these parables, that he departed from there. When he had come to his own country, he taught them in their synagogue, so that they were astonished and said, where did this man get this wisdom and these mighty works? Is it not the carpenter's son? Is not his mother called Mary, and his brother James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas, his sisters? Are they not all with us? Where did this man get all these things? So they were offended at him. But Jesus said to him, a prophet is not without honor except in his own country and in his own house. Now he did not do many mighty works there because of their unbelief. And that's the end of 13. But I want you guys to understand, the New Testament goes with the Old Testament. They do not fight each other. They do not cancel each other out. They do not disagree. They're completely in agreement. All these things that Yeshua is speaking of, he's trying to get people to understand what the kingdom of heaven is like, what his kingdom is like, because it is Yahweh's kingdom, and Yeshua sits on the throne and is over that kingdom. And in the end, he will give it all back to the Father. Okay? But we need to understand how the game works. And we need to understand how to play it, how to be in the kingdom of heaven, how to stay in it, what type of attitude it takes, what type of understanding, a heart, mind, what our actions need to line up and be. That's what the New Testament and the Old Testament are both talking about. That's what they're doing. They're trying to get us to understand how to be Yahweh's chosen people. We can sit up here and say, oh, I'm in the lineage, but it doesn't mean you're going to heaven. Just like we just read, Yeshua said, even in his kingdom, he's going to go back through his kingdom, his own kingdom. That means those people who already belong to him. And he's going to pluck out everything that is not the way he wants it to be. All those people who are not walking the way he wants them to walk. So you could think you're going to say the sinner's prayer and live by grace alone and don't have to do anything, but just continue in the evil things that you've always been doing because you're afraid to do works. You're afraid of work salvation. You're afraid to do good. You're afraid to step out and be a good human being, do good for other people, feeding the homeless, give people money, sow into other people, share your faith. They want to do one, but not both. They don't want to keep the commandments, but they claim they want to uphold the 10 commandments. But there's a lot more commandments than just 10. All right? We need to understand what are Yah's standards for our life and walk in them, keep them, do them. And that's it. That's it for today. That's kind of a loaded thing, but this message is kind of loaded, but I want you guys to understand it is doable and we can do it. We simply have to rely on Yahweh. He has to be our everything. Pray about everything you hear. Pray about everything you see. If you think your heart is not lining up with Yahweh's expectations of you, pray about it. Ask Him. Plead with Him. And ask for a changed heart, for a changed mind. All right? We'll see you on the next video. You have a great day. Shabbat shalom.